And hit the recording. The only thing else I need to do is make sure this is going live on Facebook. All right. Here we go. That is going. Yay. So glad to see everybody from Indiana, North Dakota, Seattle. Okay. Denver, California, Germany, Michigan. We have people from all over the place. That is very, very exciting. All right. Well, we have a lot of registrants. We have a lot to cover. So I am going to go ahead and get started. If you have to leave early, don't worry. This is being recorded and we will make sure that the recording gets sent out to everybody. Please give us 24 hours before you start asking. We try to get them out on the same day, but sometimes things happen. Just as a reminder, this is a webinar format, so you have a Q&A box. If you have questions throughout the presentation, questions, not comments, please put those in the Q&A box, and I will get to those when we get to the Q&A session. I am going to be talking about our program, Book Launch in a Box, at the end of this presentation. I promise you I'm going to give you plenty of great value long before I get to that, but just know if you have to drop out early, you're going to want to come back and learn about that in the replay, because it is a really excellent program. Okay, there is closed captionings are on, and you can request those, or they may be showing up on your screen already. And feel free to chat in the chat, but again, questions in the Q&A box. All right, I'm going to share my screen and let's get started. And I have Raywin here from my team to help facilitate and answer any questions. Once I go live in this presentation, I'm not going to be able to see a whole bunch of stuff. So just quickly, if everyone can let me know if you can see the screen, the slideshow. All right, we are good to go. Let's go. All right, this is how to smash your book launch. We're talking about book marketing tactics, primarily the things that you can be doing leading up into your book launch. I'm going to show you some different things, some different styles, some different tools, and give you some case studies of what is happening in the book marketing world. Just in case you are brand new to me, have never met me before, which I think almost everybody here is from our email list, so you probably know who I am. But if you're new to our list, my name is Alexa Bigwarfe. I'm an author myself. I'm also an author coach. I have 3 publishing houses. I love book launches and launching. I have a podcast. I host the annual Women in Publishing Summit, which is an amazing event. And really, of all of these things, I know a lot of people detest book marketing. In fact, I meant to put in a funny slide from that Louise, one of our members, sent me the other day, and I totally forgot. But a lot of people dread the book marketing part, and I hope to show you that there is a lot of hard work to be done, but it can be really fun. And let me tell you, when you see the results you're looking for, it is the most fun, and it's fun for your bank account too. So we are going to get into all of it. These are the companies that I represent. What are we covering? First and foremost, I think it's really important that you understand there's no this is the way you launch a book. There are lots of different types of launches, and we're going to talk about the 4 primary types of book launches. I'm going to, throughout it, set some goals and realistic expectations for what you can achieve. I'll be showing you different ways that you can get in front of readers and reviewers, help you grow your author platform through some of the examples that we're giving. Hopefully these will result in tips that set you up for success with your book launch. And also keep in mind that if you've already launched your book or don't have enough time, the book launch and marketing continues. So you can continue to implement some of these things the length of the lifetime of your book marketing. And I'm going to go through some case studies. I'm going to cover 1 children's book, 1 nonfiction book, and 1 fiction book, because I know we have a variety of authors in here, and I want you to see how using some of the same big global strategies with an individualized approach can help you where you are. Okay, I just want to start off by saying that book marketing is not easy. It's a journey. It's something that you have to really think about. It's something you need to put some strategy behind. And one of our authors and my friend Casey told me one day when we were out talking about the woes of book marketing, she said, book marketing is tough. If it was easy, we'd all be millionaires. And trust me, I'm not a millionaire. Would love to be, but but there are some authors that are millionaires. And I think if you set that as a big goal and you do the work, it's certainly not impossible to get there. And I'm going to be featuring Linda Needham. She's one of our book launch in a box alumni. But she said she came out of traditional publishing where the big five did everything for me, including marketing. So I came to indie publishing with lots to learn. And it is true, there is a lot to learn. You are the driver as an indie author, or even if you're working with a small or medium-sized press. And even these days in traditional publishing, a lot of the lion's share of marketing falls to the author. So the more educated that you can be on how to market, the better off you will be. All right, so I said we're going to go through some types of launches. Primarily, these are the main four that we see: the rapid release launch, a passion project launch, a traditional book launch, and a relaunch. All right, the rapid release works really well for a couple of types of genres. Anybody who's in a genre fiction genre, if you're a romance writer, YA, even other genres that you're able to rapidly write and release books, you can do a rapid release. However, you have to know and understand that it takes some time for this to actually show the impact that you want to show. Many of the authors who are making significant amounts of money on their books have over 10 books, some of them into the 20s and 30s. I recently interviewed Ellie Hall, who's a sweet romance writer, and she launches one book every month. One book every month. Y'all, I can't even fathom doing that. And she's been doing this for like 2 years. Wow, not for me. But it has dramatic results when you are continuously putting books out there, and you can see how many reviews she has on her first book. It allows you to use your releases as your marketing. So maybe, and she's still doing social media, she's still doing newsletter growth, she's still doing all those things to grow her marketing platform. But the rapid release gives her books to use as a marketing tool. And you can see how much impact that has on her very first book, because as she's launching new books, it gives her an opportunity to market the backlist, and that can really help you get there. Some of the authors who employ this tactic that I've talked to have said, livable wages after 2 series, or in that 6 to 10, 15 book range. So again, while you're not spending as much time or money perhaps on doing your author platform growth and your marketing, you're spending a lot of time writing. I talk about Emma St. Clair a lot. She's one of my favorite rom-com writers, and she employs a very similar strategy. She does not put out one book a month all the time, but she has. She's put out, if you can see here, October 11th, December 9th, February 6th, and there was another one in December. Those just happened to come out at the same time because she released a special one for the holidays as well. But putting out books very, very regularly so that you're continuing to feed the fuel of your readers, but also giving you the opportunity to market all the books that you already have out there. Whoops, didn't mean to have that one. What is happening? Okay, I don't know why those slides were in there twice, but onward. Okay. Something weird is happening with my slide. Oh, another type of rapid release can be projects that you're using for a very specific purpose. So neither of these were rapid release in the intent of doing one book after another, but they were published quickly for a very specific purpose. So sometimes you may have a key date, you may have a significant event, you may have a major event that you're traveling to, and you want your book available to sell at the back of the room. So with this one, for example, on the left, Dinner for $1 by my friend Shelley Longenecker, she was using her book to really launch her business. So she wasn't messing around with doing a whole bunch of marketing or pre-launch activities. She wanted to get that book out there to use as a tool to grow her audience for her other programs that she had in mind. Now, Sunshine After the Storm, which was actually a book, what is it called? Anthology, compilation is the word I'm looking for, of stories from many parents who had suffered through the loss of a pregnancy, infant loss, or older child. And we had a very specific date in mind, which was October 15th, because that is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Day. So that timeline was very, very compressed from the time the book was finished until it was launched, with very little marketing to happen with that, because we knew that our marketing would be on that Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Date and the things that would come from there. Okay. The next type of launch is a passion project. So this is for all of the authors out there who either already, in this case, the author Haley Hunter Hines had already an existing audience of her clients, of her colleagues, of people who were very interested in the type of things that she does, which in this case, very spiritual type guidance and things like that. So she knew that she wanted to create this book, Prayers, Invocation, Prayers and Blessings to Illuminate Your Life, to give, to sell to the people that were already waiting for her book, that already knew she'd been working on this, that knew that this was the type of stuff that she had. So again, very compressed timeline. The book was completed. The book was launched with very little marketing because she knew she already had people waiting on it. Now, she also knew that it was not going to generate thousands of sales because of this tactic, and she was fine with that. This was a passion project more to her than it was a project to become known as an author or to grow a career as an author. So some of you may be writing books like this, that you just, it's something on your heart that you want to get into the world, or you have an audience of people, or my family took all of our favorite stories about my great-grandmother. So the grandchildren, the children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren submitted their favorite stories. And my cousin, who's also a publisher, assembled it, put it all together, and got it out so that we could have that for our family. Never intended it to be a bestseller or anything of that nature, but the book was done and released. Then you have a relaunch. So a relaunch would be considered for anyone who didn't do the work because they were a brand new author and didn't know what to do to launch their book successfully, or perhaps didn't like the cover, or maybe they found a bunch of typos and had, or other reasons that they wanted to go back and revisit that original manuscript, or maybe the sales just weren't where they were and they just wanted to start from scratch and go out and get it. So that's when you might consider a relaunch. And both of these were very successful examples of a relaunched book. Jodi Kane Smith's book got all kinds of reviews immediately after her relaunch. She did market the relaunch very heavily. Same with the Able Queen. She went back in there with a new knowledge on how to market and build her audience, fixed some errors that had been mentioned in edits, in reviews and things like that. And both of them saw much better sales after they did their relaunch. Now, you don't have to necessarily go back and redo your book to relaunch. You can, at any point in time, if you're happy with your cover, if the interior is great, you can do kind of a mini relaunch, same type of effort, just going back to your original book and running a launch. And then you have the traditional launch. And I'm going to talk about 3 books today. Again, a children's book, a nonfiction book, and a fiction book. And we're going to go through the long process. And for me, this is, unless you're doing one of those rapid release of a series or passion project, to me, this is the way to go with your first book launch. If your goal is to really build that reader base, to really build a lot of buzz around your book, and to establish yourself as an author, you have to take the time to do it right. So first, it's important to understand what your goals are. What do you want from your launch? What would make you the happiest on your launch day? Is it a lot of reviews? Is it a lot of sales? Is it growing your email list? Is it to establish yourself as an expert? You have to know and understand what it is you're trying to get from your book, and the strategy that you develop will be based on that. And then it's really important to have realistic expectations. It is a numbers game through and through. The more people that you have that know who you are and that you can get in front of, whether that's through your own social media, through your own email list and website and all of those things, or whether it's going out and getting in front of other people's audiences, you have to have a lot of people to be able to sell a lot of books. And there are numerous tools and opportunities for you to expand that reach, but it has to be part of your plan. The best way for you to have a great launch with lots of sales and lots of reviews, I believe, is to create as much buzz as possible when you're in the launch process. And many times that means getting the book in front of, giving the book to people so that they will leave a review. You can build that on your own by finding influencers and readers and all of those types of things. But I can tell you from experience that you can grow a huge email list of people who want a free copy of your book to leave a review, and it's very challenging to get those folks to do it. So we prefer to load our books to places, and I'll talk about some of these places in a minute, where there's already a basic agreement in place that if you're getting a copy of the book, the expectation is that you will actually leave a review. So for example, NetGalley, some of the blog tours and Instagram tours and things like that have that expectation too. And if you're not leaving reviews on the books that you have left, then you can be removed from those opportunities. So they take their reviews seriously. And yes, you do pay some money to have those, but you're pretty much guaranteed to see some level of reviews by doing that. All right. You always have to be thinking about your target audience and how to get in front of them. For some audiences, this is easier than others, but some of the questions that you can ask yourself is, who will buy your book and why? Where are they? And I don't necessarily mean geographically, but I can mean geographically, because maybe there are a lot of opportunities based on where you live. There are some areas of our country that have a much larger focus on the arts and do book fairs a lot and do special events and have a lot of indie bookstores that want to bring authors in and all of those types of things. Whereas if you're in a more rural setting, you may not have those types of opportunities, and you have to find other ways to get in front of them. How do you get their attention? What will make them want to read the book, buy the book, share about the book, review the book, recommend the book, all of those types of things? Those are the questions you want to ask. And largely, it's going to vary by genre. So understanding what the readers of your genre want and expect is a critical piece of this. Okay. Talking a little bit about strategy. I put this in a lot of presentations that I do because I really want to hone it in. If you're trying to do too many things, and if you're trying to do those things in an order that doesn't make sense, all that's going to result is a lot of stress, some exhaustion, inconsistent results. So strategy is important. Thinking about your timeline, thinking about when things have to be done so that you get the max out of it. All right. Thought this slide was later on, but I'm just going to go with it. Some of the commonalities in, I feel like something weird just happened and I may have jumped a bunch of slides. Bear with me for a second here. Sorry, guys, this is really weird, but I just want to make sure. Nope, I just put the slide in the wrong place. Okay, just wanted to be certain. Back to it. Some of the commonalities and the successes of launch that we will see and we'll talk about is a focus on finding your readers and growing your platform. Again, I mentioned earlier, you have to have a certain number of people to sell your book to in order to see book sales. And the more you can find, the better. The more you can place your books in places where readers and reviewers, retailers and librarians can find it, the better you're going to be for so many reasons, but especially because if you're putting it in places where people love to read, especially advanced reader copies or galleys or any of those, like they're in the mindset and they're trained that I'm getting this book early so that I can review it for other people to help out with, to spread the information to other people. You have to have enough time to create buzz, however that is. That can be through social media, that can be through ads, that can be through podcasts, that can be through a variety of things, but you have to have time to implement all of these things. And you have to have a budget. Marketing is not free. Marketing is not free. Okay. You are going to have to put some money in. There are very, very long-term strategies, or even if you happen to wind up in the right group of people who cross promote and do things where you can get lucky and see results from some free-ish type activities. But again, that doesn't just come from just deciding one day I'm going to find 4 other authors who write in my genre. We're going to send out newsletters. If you haven't done the opportunity, taken the time to build your email list, then you can send out a newsletter about your cross promo, all your books being on sale together and all those kinds of things. And it won't result in the same type of response to that. So there is going to be a money expectation at some point in time that you're spending some money at some way, shape, or form. And I'm going to be talking about some of the places that we spend money when we're marketing books. So your strategy, of course, is going to be individualized based on your specific audience and your genre, based on your timeline, your budget, your capabilities, what you're able to do, as much as anything else. But the big picture activities, which are the things above, are going to remain the same for all authors. When you're thinking about your time frame and how much time you need to put in there, this is what we do from when we are launching books, either for my publishing houses or for authors that we're working with one-on-one. We don't ever set a launch date until the book is all the way through editing, maybe not the final proofread, because we want to get it formatted and then see a print proof copy, because that print proof can show you all kinds of things. But we don't set a date until we are pretty confident that the book is actually going to be done, with enough time for us to have preferably 6 months to really build buzz, but at least 3. The 6 month is important if you're planning on going for editorial reviews, trade reviews. Some of those take 8, 12 weeks. Some of them require a copy of the book 4 to 6 months prior to launch to even consider it for a trade review or editorial review. So you have to keep those things in mind. Then is your advanced reader copy ready? That's an important part for your timeline. You want, again, that 3 to 6 months to be able to get it into the hands of readers so that they have the time to read and review and start helping you build up that buzz. Just a note, people can't leave reviews on Amazon until it's already published, but they sure can leave them on Goodreads. And Goodreads is a great tool to be using in that pre-marketing time plan. Again, if you have a specific date or deadline you're trying to reach, that's great if that you're using that as a goal deadline, but don't be afraid to adjust that date if you can't get your book ready in time to meet it. And then I would just consider it to have you write down, we're not going to spend time on it right here, but this is your action step, is to think about where your book is in the process right now and try to craft out a timeline for publication that gives you at least 3 to 6 months of marketing from the time you have a final version, a final proof, I would say, because an advanced reader copy is often an uncorrected proof until it gets out final proofread, so that you can start sharing your book and getting feedback. All right, I promised I'd talk a little bit about budget, so let's talk about some of the things that we spend money on. Your print copies can vary greatly. Some people like to give out a lot of print copies with children's books. I find this to be a higher budget, a higher budget for a couple of reasons. One, the print cost is higher, and 2, the print version really is so much more valuable for people to have in hand because of the color, illustrations, and all of those types of things. It's a lot easier for people to really get a feel for the book because illustrations are so key, but it's also easier for them to post pictures of them holding the book or seeing the book, or even reading the book on a video or anything like that. So we always plan for about 30 to 50 copies, print copies of a book, to get into the hands of influencers and reviewers for the purpose of building buzz ahead of our launch. But that's going to vary on you and your budget. If that's absolutely something that you can't do, maybe you make the number 5 to 10 for your most influential or most important reviewers, and maybe you give out a lot of copies of your ebook, which is absolutely fine for fiction, nonfiction books. Even for children's books, we give away the ebook too, if we've expanded our, gotten beyond the amount of books that we have available. A Goodreads giveaway, I think the price has gone up a little bit, but I'm going to talk about Goodreads in our case studies. But this is a very, very valuable use of $150 or whatever it is. And I'll show you why in a minute. You may decide you need help doing some of these things. So hiring a VA to help you market, if you bring them in just for your launch and marketing period, you could have them for a couple months to forever, depending on what your goals are. So that's a really varied price. But it's worth considering in your budget. Can I do all of these things by myself, or am I going to need to have someone to help me? Marketing and ad spend can vary from $0 to thousands of dollars, but it depends on what you're including in that amount of money. If you're running ads, if you're paying influencers, if you're doing other things, you may need some other some others. And you may also want to consider trade reviews and editorial reviews as part of this, in which case you'll want to increase that budget, because most of those trade reviews are going to run in the $350 to $500 range. We aim for a minimum of 2, 3 if we really want to go the extra mile. If you're having a party or event, you should have some money for that set aside. If you're going to do swag or giveaways or anything like that to help you market your book, you'll want some money for there. Again, this is very variable. And then paid promos and review sites. I think I lumped in some of the editorial reviews in there, but there are lots of sites. We've talked about Written Word Media and Fussy Librarian and Robin Reads. There are lots of sites, BookBub, that have curated lists of readers, and every day they send out an email of discounted and free books, and it can cost anywhere from $50 to $200 to have your book promoted in one of those email lists, but they're pretty effective. And I'll show you some of the results of some free download that we did on 4 days in Paris. So as you're planning, as you're strategizing, think about what are the things that where do you want to put your money? And you may not know yet, and that's okay. But these are some of the key areas that we feel are going to help you move the marker forward in your book marketing efforts. And then make sure that you have thought about your budget and have the money available. Can you do a decent book launch without spending thousands of dollars? Yes, but I would say to you that it's going to take more time growing your readership, more time growing partnerships with others, and more of your personal time getting out on podcasts or doing other things where you're getting in front of other people's audiences. One of the ways that we approach a book marketing is looking at comp titles and really knowing and understanding of your genre, because there are some genres that have very different expectations. There are some things that are doing really well. This is where you're going to find the differences when it comes down to book launch and your book and how it's going to do. So you want to know what's performing well in your genre and why, and try and mimic some of the things that those authors or their publishers are doing to market that book. In the nonfiction, you may be looking more at your competitors more so than the specific genre, because nonfiction genres tend to be bigger overarching categories like business. And then you get down into some of the smaller ones. Maybe it's writing reference or something like that. You may be looking more at what other people are putting out in those, and looking at how those are going and what they're doing, what their covers look like, what their descriptions look like. You might want to look at how people are running their launches in your same genre. How are they positioning themselves, both on a personal platform base, like how are they out in front of their audiences, but then how is the book positioned in terms of where it fits into the marketplace? Do you have a unique selling point? How is your book different from the other books that are doing well? And making sure that readers know and understand, especially if you're comparing it to something, this book is similar to, this book will have the same feeling as Discovery of Witches. However, this book, blah, blah, blah. You can look at things like that. And how do you stand out or fit in with what readers are expecting in those particular genres? So especially in Book Launch in a Box, we spend a lot of time on looking at positioning and figuring all of these types of things out, studying, searching for books, and really making sure that your book is going to fit in the marketplace that is performing. In terms of, growing that readership, it comes from growing your platform. And we had a great question from someone in a different session that I'd never really thought about. A lot of times people talk about platform as what you stand for. I have a platform for environmental protection or something like that. This is a different kind of platform. This literally means, you can use, obviously, your platform of that nature to grow your platform as an author, especially if you're writing a book that's relevant to a social platform that you may have. But in this case, we're literally talking about how many people are following you and where. LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all of those types of things. Do you have a lot of subscribers to your blog or your newsletter? What are you doing to get out content there that'll bring people back into you? Are you looking for opportunities to show up in front of other places and get in front of other audiences? How do you do these things? Well, through podcasts, summits, teleconferences, live events, guest media or media, earned media and paid media, other people in your genre, other colleagues who are in the same genre. Maybe they're talking about you in their newsletter, or maybe you're using something like BookFunnel to participate in a group promo, those types of things. So it's up to you. You can't do all of these things at once, at least. You can start with one, build it out, do another one, maybe do 2 or 3 that aren't quite as intensive. But where do you want to be growing your fan base, if you will, the fastest? And how do you make the opportunities to get in front of those other audiences? So back to the actual launch. That's what we all want to feel like when we're looking at our stats on launch day. Let me tell you, it's a great feeling when you see the numbers just rolling in. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about getting to that moment. This is kind of a recap of what I have already covered, but I feel that repetition is often very necessary and key, especially since I'm moving through this really quickly. So your launch strategy, really, again, if you're following a traditional launch strategy, which just means growing a big audience of readers and potential book buyers, getting your book out there in front of as many people as you can, then you have to be creating buzz as much as possible, as soon as possible. Tools that will help you do that: advanced readers, reviewers, review sites. Having other people talk about your book can really just explode your possibilities. It's always great when you see somebody, especially someone who wasn't in your community ahead of time, post something or email you or share or say something like, I love this book so much, I bought one for all of my sisters, or I bought one for every child in my classroom, or things of this nature. And that happens when people are talking about your book and sharing about it with audiences that you can't necessarily reach on your own, but other people can help you reach. If you're focusing on a social media platform, what's your strategy behind that? Knowing that it takes some time to do that. So make sure that you're focusing on, don't fall into the trap of author follows on Instagram is a big thing. Author follow loops. Well, those can be great if your target audience is authors. Those can be great if you want to follow other authors in a similar genre so that you can then engage with them and engage with their followers and follow their followers. But you really want to be making sure that you are spending the time growing and engaging and finding readers, people who are posting about books in your genre, people who are sharing reviews, people are doing those types of things, and making sure that that's where your energy and effort is. And I use this strategy with 4 Days in Paris and built my Instagram there faster than I have a personal Instagram, Alexa Bigwarfe, that's been taking me years because I'm just posting about my life on there, and it grows very slowly. But I went very intentionally with Lexi Haddock and went in there and followed readers and found readers and commented on their posts and looked at who else was commenting on their post and followed those people and built it up to over 1,000 people in about 3 months. And I haven't done much with it since then. I need to get back to that, but that's how you do it. You engage with the right audience and follow them. And of course, these trade reviews, marketing to retailers and librarians, this is also a big growth opportunity because they talk to each other, they post reviews, they do other things. They may recommend your book to their district if we're talking about a school librarian, for example. Those are other opportunities for you to expand your reach by getting it in front of those people. And just quickly, if you've already launched and you're thinking, well, it's too late for me to do anything, that is absolutely not correct. It is never too late to create buzz. In one of our very first Women in Publishing Summits years ago, I interviewed a woman who hit the New York Times bestselling list 3 years after her book was published. 3 years. Because in that time frame, she was like, okay, something's not happening like it needs to happen. And she went back and implemented a bunch of things to create more buzz and to do the things. Some tools that can help you are awards and review sites. A lot of awards will accept books that were published 2 to 3 years or have no publication date. You have to pay attention to it though, because many of them only want books published within the calendar year of that, but some of them are open to others. Review sites, you can go in and request a paid review, a trade review through many sites, even if you're past your launch date. It's always better to do these things ahead of time, because if those reviews are going out for people who are looking to buy new books, i.e. retailers and librarians and looking for the new hot thing or whatever, they like to see those types of reviews earlier. But you can absolutely do them after the fact. You can always give your book to influencers. It doesn't matter if your book published 25 years ago. If you are trying to get some more buzz on that book, you can always give it to people and in exchange for reviews and for them to talk about it. Or to a book club, you can give to a book club and have them use it. All of those types of things. You can be still working to build your email list, because guess what? The more subscribers you have, the more opportunities for you to sell your book to them through providing value through your great newsletter campaigns. As you write more books, as we saw with the rapid release examples, you can use those books to market your backlist. Every time you launch a book, you're going to see sales on books that came before it. So those will help you. You can jump straight into running paid promo campaigns. This works especially well for people who are in KDP Select, because you can make your book $0 and get a lot of downloads. If you're not in KDP Select, you can run the discounted campaigns and make it 99 cents and get a bunch of downloads. And what happens is they download those books, and then as they go through and read them later, you may start seeing more reviews. You may see other things. Those are long tail campaigns, so they don't, again, you may see a lot of downloads obviously immediately on that day, but it may take quite a while before people actually read and review your book. So you go into those with the expectation that I may not see immediate results, but I will see other results. And of course, collaborate with other authors. This is so important and big, especially if you're all out there doing these types of things. If you've been growing your email list and you all have, let's say you all have 500 people on your email list, and there's 6 of you that are going to run a campaign together, whether it's a discounted book or whether it's just an awareness campaign on here's 6 books that are just amazing books on historical fiction, whatever, Regency books, and we're all going to send out to our email list. That's 6 times, that's 3,000 people there that you're all sending emails out to and talking about this book, and 2,500 of those people didn't ever know about you before that. There's a chance. So collaboration, it doesn't have to be that. It can be, you can run a webinar together. You can run a workshop together. You can set up an event. If you happen to be in the same locale, set up a book signing event together. There are just so many opportunities to collaborate with other authors and use each other to help grow your own audiences while collaborating together. All right, let's look at some case studies. So I've given you big picture overview stuff. Now let's actually get into some what is actually happening with some book launches that are either happening right now or just completed recently. So famous seaweed soup. Many of you know Antoinette Martin. She's a part of WIP School and is a part of the Women in Publishing Summit. She's just a wonderful woman. She actually published this book years ago and decided that she wanted to make it more applicable, make it more relevant to today. So she went back, she updated the illustrations, and now has this relaunched this book. Her other publisher had also actually unpublished the book, and she came to Purple Butterfly Press and said, I would love to redo this book and get it back out there again. The illustrations are absolutely gorgeous. And oh, by the way, we found out with this book that you can actually have another Kirkus review on an updated book, and she got a very positive Kirkus review on this. But for Antoinette's book, she has been highly engaged in her own media and audience growth plan. She's been out there doing events. She's been on radio shows. She's been on television interviews. She's been doing those things to make sure that people know she's working. It's a book about the beach. She lives up in the Northeast. She's working with bookshops to include her book in their not just bookshops. She's working with bookshops in the area, but she's also working with tourist shops and different places around around the beach area to put her book on their bookshelves as a local author. All of those types of things she's doing. We've been working on building her launch team and advanced readers. She's got 90 plus people on her launch team. So we're feeding them information as time comes out, hey, the book is live on Goodreads. If you've read it, go leave your review. Hey, there's a Goodreads giveaway going on. Hey, Antoinette was just on this podcast. Go listen to it and share those types of things. Again, doing lots on Instagram, and we'll be posting through some influencers on Instagram as we get closer to our book launch, which is just a couple weeks out. With children's books, there is the Children's Book Review website, and they do an awareness tour. We're right in the middle of that right now. And every day a different reviewer is either posting their review or an interview with Antoinette. And I'll show you some slides on some of the other stuff that's happening with that in a minute that are really cool. Of course, we've submitted for the editorial reviews. I talked to you about the Kirkus one. We've submitted her to Clarion. And we've submitted her to a whole slew of traditional reviews, like the library journal, school library journal, a whole bunch of other different places that you can submit to. We sent out an e-blast with through the Independent Book Publishers Association. They have a children's book e-blast that goes straight to children's book librarians. Even though her book is on pre-order, it's still in there. It's got the description. It's got where the book is available for them to purchase and all of those types of things. Giveaway on Goodreads starts today or tomorrow. So that'll be really fun to see all of the people adding the book to the shelf. If you've never used Goodreads, I'm going to show you a slide in a moment that in one of the other books that gives you an example, and NetGalley. So this is the children's books, a sample from the Children's Book Review. These are all the stops that they have lined up. And the cool thing about this, yes, it costs money, but they do all the work of finding the reviewers, and they vet their reviewers and make sure that people actually leave them. We can't guarantee that they'll actually leave their reviews anywhere, but they're wherever they say they're posting it, either on their website or their social media. But our hope is that they will all also leave a review on Amazon or on Goodreads when her book is launched. But we've got a whole lineup here of people that are sharing about her book to their audiences, which is great. The other thing that you can do with this tour is you can run some type of giveaway. Well, this is a children's book, so we thought it would be a great idea to offer a 30-book classroom set to one lucky teacher. Why is this great? Well, we want to be followed by teachers. We want to get our book awareness in front of teachers, because teachers can really move the marker on a children's book. So there will be a classroom set and then 5 winners. And that's something that I, as the publisher, am doing as part of my marketing budget, because I know how important this is for getting visibility on her book. So to the left, this is just a screenshot of what was emailed out to the list of children's book librarians through IBPA. There were about 7 books in that particular blast. 4 of the 7 were Purple Butterfly Press books. So we really hope we got some activity over to our website, and we'll see those sales. It just went out the other day. So that's really exciting. And then this is a screenshot of Goodreads. Now hers is combined because there's still some reviews from the previous version of the book, but we're working again through the NetGalley reviewers and through other influencers to really grow the amount of reviews that are out there. Now, Goodreads is a tool that avid readers use, and they recommend their books to everybody who's following them and their friends, and they're very serious about their reviews. So as you notice, not everybody's popping down a 5-star. This is very typical of NetGalley and Goodreads, because they're very conscientious about giving a great review. And by the way, a 3-star and above means good. We've gotten so trained by Amazon that a 3 and 4-star are bad, but that's not always the case. So keep that in mind. Here's a screenshot from the reviews that we're seeing on NetGalley. NetGalley is a great tool because you have not only readers, but you have librarians, you have teachers, you have retailers, and you get the email list of the people who have downloaded, and many of them will select yes, that they're interested in carrying your book or learning more about your book or being in contact with the author. So we'll get that data at the end that we can then reach out to all of those folks as well. And you can see this first one, she's a pre-K teacher and she could totally use the story during the family theme. So those are great things when a teacher's looking for recommendations on a children's book. Okay, great. I see how I can implement this. So really, really great use. I mentioned that we did go back and do the editorial review again with Kirkus, an enjoyable revision of an endearing story. You really can't ask for more from a Kirkus review because sometimes they can be really nasty. So we're very happy with a very positive review. Again, Kirkus will do things like they will send the book out in their catalog to all of their 80,000 subscribers. So there are beyond just the review. Oh, by the way, these reviews get fed into the book buying system. So when a children's book librarian or bookstore is looking for a beach read for children, a children's book beach read, the ones with editorial reviews will be higher in the list of all books. So she's getting herself more visibility when people are actively searching for books to buy for their library or to sell in their bookstore. And then, of course, Antoinette's been very active in doing her own marketing. She's been sharing her pre-order links and doing all of the things. We know there's been activity on Amazon through the pre-order, one because it's ranking on Amazon, and also because this particular book is traditionally distributed. And our distributor sent us opening PO purchase orders from Amazon the other day of over 200 books. So there's things happening because of the marketing of the pre-order marketing. So I guess I don't specifically say that, but a pre-order campaign is also a pretty important component of a traditional book launch. All right, let's move into our nonfiction journey. So this was a really fun one to kind of be. I did not participate as the marketer. However, Linda was a student in last year's book launch in a box, and she implemented the things that we taught in that program. And this was an interesting one to watch because Linda's actually a USA Today bestselling romance writer. And she decided to give a go at writing a nonfiction book for romance writers. So your first spark to from first spark to blockbuster, and helping authors understand how to craft the type of book that they need to become a bestseller. So her audience, because she was starting brand new with a new audience, was a little bit different. She had to go out and find that audience, but she spent a lot of time making sure that her book was positioned properly, that it was in front of the right people, that it was being marketed in terms of how she was speaking about it and getting out there in the right way. And one of the things that she told me that personal connections were a really big piece of this. So she really spent some time, and luckily as a romance writer, she's surrounded by a lot of other romance writers. She's surrounded by her WIP school audience and her book launch in a box audience. She had her target audience at her disposal. So she was able to use them for getting feedback through the beta reading process, through getting ARC readers, through just timing was so perfect. Well, I think this was planned actually, but she launched her book right around the Women in Publishing Summit. So we were able to feature her book in front of all the people who were attending that. She also reinvigorated her Facebook author page and started posting there and growing new followers. She posted in relevant Facebook groups where her target audience was hanging out. And in this case, being in author groups was to her benefit because authors are her target audience. She grew her social media, her Instagram presence grew. She has submitted a Kirkus review. It's not back yet, but hopefully that will be in soon. Again, she gave out ARCs to her local writing groups and to authors in the relevant Facebook groups. And for future activities, and this is something also the nonfiction authors can do really, really great stuff with, and fiction authors, depending on the topic here, but she's going to be conducting workshops and she's applying to conferences and other places where she can actually teach workshops, where she'll not only hopefully sell copies of her book, where she'll hopefully make money as an instructor as well. So, don't just, the launch strategy doesn't end on launch day. It keeps going. And she did what she needed to do. She got it out there. She had on launch day, she hit that #1 release. And, her author friends really, really came in for her and helped her get that out there. And that's a great bragging point for her. on Goodreads right now. She said she hasn't gotten as many as reviews as she would like on Goodreads, but she's working on sending people there. Again, that's something that you have to, in the beginning, make sure that your community knows about. So I'm sure if she's here today, she'll know that my advice to her is to go back to anybody who participated in her ARC process or beta reader and ask them to go also put their reviews on Goodreads. But Goodreads can be a great opportunity. Again, I would also advise her to run a giveaway and see if she can get some good traction from that. And again, I keep telling you, I'm going to show you what happens in a Goodreads giveaway. That's in the next example coming up, which is right now. Okay. So 4 Days in Paris, full disclosure, if you don't know this already, this is my pen name. This was my first rom-com book, and I did not take quite as long of approach, but I took a very strategic approach. This launch of this book was a hybrid of passion project, traditional launch, and rapid release. So I say that because it was a book I'd had on my heart that I just wanted to write for a long time. It's based on something that actually happened to me. So I knew that I wanted to get the book out there because it's the first one in a 3-part series. There were a lot of reasons why I chose a shorter launch period, which maybe didn't result in as many sales and as I would want for if this was my, going through all of the traditional launch things that we've just said. But it accomplished the goals that I needed to accomplish, and it set me up for what's coming next. That being said, I still try to do as many of the things that I would consult anybody else to do. An influencer and reviewer campaign. We used a company called Love Book Tours, and they posted all over the place during that launch window. Big Instagram tour. We posted a lot through all of our accounts. We put it on NetGalley. We did a Goodreads giveaway. Did other paid promotions. I'm still periodically running free download days. I have it on KDP Select for now. Eventually, I'm going to move it wide so that I can try and get it into libraries because ebooks through libraries are a really big deal. And especially if I'm going to start marketing towards book clubs, I definitely want to make sure that it's available in libraries. We had an ARC team, all of those types of things. I grew my Instagram account in 3 months to over 1,000 people. And that was very, very strategically through engaging with readers, through following other authors who wrote on similar, who write rom-com, and then spending time looking at their posts, seeing who was commenting on their posts, going to those people's accounts, seeing if they look like they would be a good fit and following them, and then inviting them to be part of the advanced review team. But we had so much fun, y'all. I had so much fun with this book launch. I would like to say I wouldn't even care if it had 12 sales because the process was so great, but that's not true. I would like to see the book sell well, and I'm not done with my marketing, and book 2 will hopefully be out sometime this year. So, but I actually, and this isn't something everybody can do, but I actually went to Paris to finish the book and took a lot of imagery and used that marketing in my growth there. So you can do things like that too. You can visit the scene, or you can post fun things about what the concepts of your book or the themes of your book or what's happening to really get in front of the people that love that. This book, while it's a rom-com, is also a love letter to Paris, and it is heavy on the Paris scenery and history and things like that. So I wanted to make sure that when I was showing up in front of the right people, I was showing up in front of people that have a true love of Paris. And that was important for it. Now, this is what I want to talk to you about with Goodreads and NetGalley. Again, I mentioned this before. People don't just plop a 5-star review on your books. This isn't exactly the rating that I would love to have. First time debut author, and the good reviews are awesome reviews. So I'm happy with that. But not everybody loved the book. Not everybody wanted a book that was so in depth on the Paris scenery and all those types of things. Not everybody likes quick romance. This was an instant romance, and not everybody loves that. So this is a fact of life. You're going to get negative reviews. You may not get what you want, but also keep in mind that 3 stars and above aren't necessarily bad reviews. I'm going to show you a couple of examples, But what's cool is that there's 104 ratings and 70 reviews, and it's growing. So there are still people adding it to their bookshelf and reviewing it and all of that. And that's ultimately the goal. And we know as readers that not everybody's going to love every book. I usually look at the high reviews and I look at the low reviews and I make a decision. And often if it's a book that looks interesting to me, the low reviews are irrelevant because they're things like, I didn't like the character's name, or I didn't like that they fell in love in 4 days. It's called 4 Days in Paris, y'all. It's going to be an instant romance. The description says, can you fall in love in 4 days? Yet I got a 2-star review because someone was like, I didn't like that it was an instant romance. Okay. Those are the things you take. Your skin gets thicker and you have to understand this as you use these tools. Here's the Goodreads giveaway slide that I wanted to show you. So how Goodreads works on a giveaway is that people have the opportunity to add your book to a bookshelf or add it to or mark it as want to read. So you can see when we ran our giveaway, we had 2,930 people mark it as want to read, and over 3,000 people added it to their shelves. So that could be want to read, or it could be already read, or it could be a variety of things. Now, what happens when you have followers on there is when you take any activity like this, it shows up in your news feed. So it's also a little bit of a social element there too. So the people that are following you and looking for your recommendations or what you're reading are going to see what you've added to your shelf or what you've reviewed. So that's another way that you can expand out into other audiences. Here's an example of the NetGalley review because I wanted y'all to think that I wasn't just making this up. Let's look at this, a 3-star review. Her last sentence is, overall, I really enjoyed it and I loved this book. So if you use NetGalley, understand that there are some hard reviewers out there. So take it with a grain of salt. Get what you can from, I've definitely taken from the negative reviews what I could take to try and make future books better or even make changes, because ideally you've got the book on NetGalley prior to the launch, right? So you still have some time to adjust some things, make some changes, make sure that it says, you know, insta romance or love at first sight or whatever, so that people are aware of that when they go into it. That's another advantage of NetGalley. But keep in mind, you may get some reviews that kind of hurt your heart, and then you read them and you're like, for crying out loud, this is an amazing review. I'd use it in marketing. I'm just not going to put that she gave it a 3-star, you know, so there you go. Again, it did obviously get 5s and 4s as well. This is just a look at what of what you see on the back end of NetGalley. Anybody can go on NetGalley and create a free thing and look at the books that are out there and how they're being used, and it can really pep you up if you're looking at the good ones. I mean, when you see new to me author, but one I'd read again for sure. If this book doesn't make you want to buy a one-way plane ticket to Paris, you're lying. This was so fun. Like, those can really pep you up, but you have to be careful with the, you know, almost everybody gets 1, 2s, and 3 stars on NetGalley, and that's just kind of part of the deal. All right, back to the paid promos. So in February, around Valentine's Day, I believe I used Written Word Media for this particular one. I bought a slot in their free download around Valentine's Day. They sent it out to all of their readers on that day, and there were almost 3,000 downloads of the book. Now, why is this important? Okay, well, it's 3,000 people who now have your book. That's the obvious thing, right? These 3,000 people may never actually find the book on their Kindle and never read it. And for that, you know, it's just too bad. You see the downloads and you're excited about it. However, if they do read the book, you will start seeing reviews. And I've started seeing reviews from people on the Amazon page that are not from people that I knew or were on my ARC team, that are unknown names and reviews to me. And I think a lot of those have probably come from people who have downloaded the book and read it through KDP. But also, if you're in KDP Select, you get what's called KENP, is the number of Kindle pages that were read. And at the end of each month, they go in and they see how much money they have overall, and they decide how much one page view is worth. And then they pay you for the pages that were read. So you can actually, I've seen people make hundreds to thousands of dollars a month just in those page reads. I'm not quite there yet. I'm making about $4 to $6 a month in page reads. Hopefully that will grow as more books come out there. I will continue to do free downloads and bring people in. And this will be a part of my launch strategy with book 2 as I'm marketing book 2. Book 1 is going to be free periodically so that I can bring people in on that as well. So the paid promos, again, if you put your book on 99¢, I'm not sure if it's not free. If you don't, I don't know. I didn't look to see if you get them on. I think you only get the page payments if you have the free download, but still 99¢. You won't get probably 3,000 plus downloads, but you'll still see 50, 60, 100 downloads of your book at 99¢, which is like 33 cents per copy. It's not a lot, but then again, it's all those new readers that you didn't have before. And you can see the ratings are going up. And luckily, the people who left 2s and 3s on NetGalley have not transferred those to Amazon, because we all know Amazon is about having a 4-star plus rating, because that's just the way Amazon works. So again, continuing to work on that. And this is a long-term launch strategy that I'll continue to come back to as I launch book 2 and book 3. And with book 2 and 3, I may not put as much effort into like the Kirkus review or things like that, because now I have a backlist. Be it only one book, I have other things to help grow with the marketing. Okay, so the key takeaway, what time are we at? Oh goodness, I've been going on for an hour. Let me speed this up, y'all. Okay, marketing is a long game. You got to build relationships. You got to do the work. You got to put it in there. It does not stop at launch, but a strong pre-launch effort does give you a foundation. Implement the best practices. Best practices are what I've just been telling you about. And don't just do random actions. You should never be doing random actions. You can sometimes. You can like, I wonder if this would work. And sometimes those wind up being amazing, but a lot of times they don't. Okay. I will answer your questions, but first I want to talk to you quickly about Book Launch in a Box. And if you have to leave now and you have a question in the Q&A box, that I will go through the questions and answer them. So just go back to the replay and watch on. But I want to talk to you about those of you who want help in doing this, because as I mentioned, it is not easy. So I would like to ask you if you want to see the same kind of results, and if you're interested in hearing about how we help through our program, Book Launch in a Box. So if yes, please type yes. If not a single person says yes, I won't talk about it. Okay, we got some yeses. Awesome. Obviously, you want to smash your book launch. Whatever your goal is, however that looks to you, a smashing book launch could be 5 copies sold. Okay, there's no shame in that if this is a passion project. A smashed book launch could be 500,000. That would be phenomenal, right? Okay, I can't guarantee those types of results, but I can guarantee that you'll sell at least 5 books at your launch, preferably more. All right, so Book Launch in a Box is our program that we run. It's a hybrid live and self-paced program. So what I mean by that is it starts on June 5th, and you will have content that you can go in and review on your own time. On week 1, we drop a module, then you get the time to go through all of those things. And then week 2, we have a Q&A session that's live, specific to all of those. If you can't attend live, we ask you to submit your questions in ahead of time, all of those types of things, and we will get in there and answer them in the recording so that you can come back to it. But we take a comprehensive look over a 3-month period at 6 main modules that are the key to building the strategy that I just talked about. And I'm going to talk to you about each of those modules now. We also have lots of great bonus content for you. Again, the Q&A sessions, all of those types of things, so that you can get live interaction with us and ask your questions while you are going through. We also keep the Q&A session open to the people who went through the year before, because I really like to have people who are ideally 6 to 18 months out of away from their launch. If you're 3 months out, we can still get you someplace. If you're lower than 3 months, we can definitely still help you, but you won't be able to do some of the things. But it's really meant to be a long-term approach to making sure that you've set yourself up to do all of these things correctly. And then the following year, when we run it live again, you're welcome to come back through the Q&A sessions, because it may have taken you that whole time to work through everything. It's next level implement. The next level is to implement. So going through all the things that are in that pre-launch, launch, and post-launch. It's advanced level. So who it is not for. It's not for rapid launchers. Your rapid launch is your marketing plan. So if you're planning on launching a book every 2 months or every 3 months or once a month or whatever it is, like this plan's not going to help. It's not going to be useful to you because it's not based on that strategy. If you're already seeing tremendous sales, you don't need my help. You've already got this. If you just want to hire somebody to do everything for you, that's some people's way to go. That's cool. Now, the one thing I would say, though, is that if you have hired a VA or someone on your team who is helping you implement, you can run them through the program. So that's always an option. And if you have no time and no interest in learning how to do this and putting in some work, not for you. And I would say if you're launching before August, again, that's a judgment call on you after you see what's being covered in each module. But if you're launching before August, you're not going to have enough time. Maybe if you're launching August and beyond, but July, unless you've already done some work, you probably don't need this program. Okay, who it is for? Again, 3+ months from launch. So if you're still writing your book, this could still be a great program for you because it will teach you the things that you need to be doing along the way. And oh, by the way, when you're learning positioning through it, it may help you with your writing as well as you're thinking about your audience and what you're doing. If you're willing to do the work, if you have big goals, if you have some time or you have a team who's going to do the work for you, this is for you. So fundamental 1, I'm going to go through these quickly. You all will get the slides so you can go back and look at what's on these slides. But fundamental 1 is positioning your book to sell. You have to know where your book fits in the marketplace. You have to know how your book is going to be viewed on the market and how to market it. And we have a special guest, Pam Shepard, who comes in and provides teaching and content on this and will handle the Q&A. She was a bookseller for 30 years. She knows this better than anybody else. I would not even try to teach it because we already have an expert on our team who does. Oops, went one slide too many. Go back. Fundamental 2, creating buzz specific to retailers and libraries. What do you need to be doing to make sure that people, retailers and librarians want your book? Fundamental 3, and if you notice to the side, there are bonuses with each of these. So we have bonus courses and bonus material for you that go along with these. Fundamental 3 is all about creating buzz for your consumer reviews, for your readers, for your launch team, the ARC process, all of those types of things. Fundamental 4 is your messaging. So this can be across the board from, it includes things like writing your hooks and log lines. That's part of your messaging, how people perceive your book when they're looking at it. But it's also about your messaging as your marketing. What content are you creating on social media or through your newsletter or through other places? So we'll dig into those. And we're going to add another bonus, which Raywin is going to add on tools for content strategy and marketing, because there's a lot of cool tools that can help you do these so much easier. Fundamental 5, expanding your reach. How do you get in front of other people's audiences? How do you make sure that you are not just out there trying to get all your fans from Instagram, but have other ways to get there? And then fundamental 6 is visibility from a bigger level. We have a special guest, a PR marketing expert, April Pertwee, who has created content all around visibility. And a lot of this is post-launch, can be leading into launch, but what you're doing after the fact and in that time frame to get more eyes on you. Okay, the cost is normally $897, but for people on our webinar today and for the next few days, because you may need some time to think about it, it's going to be 40% off. Where is the coupon code? 30% off, I'm sorry. Save 30 B Lab will get you 30% off of Book Launch in a Box. This will end on April 30th. If you are in WIP school, you get 50% off. You have a link that I've already sent to you, so don't use this link. You'll have a special link that we emailed and I can send out if you need it again. But if you want to save 30%, and I have all kinds of payment plans, you can do 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, 4, like there's all kinds of options there to make this manageable. When you get to the cart page at that link, you will see have a coupon code thingy right down here, and you click on that arrow and you can put it in there. I'm not going to read all of these testimonials because I have a lot of them because this program has been very successful and people loved it. But I wanted to share Linda's because what she said was so important, that it helps guide her through the inscrutable world of publishing and marketing. It allows her to do it in her way at her own time. We really helped her analyze her book's market assets, discover her target audience, and understand the market variables. And I think that's a very important takeaway. The meeting times will vary, and we haven't set those yet, Prajna, but generally they happen during the work day, during the hours of probably like our webinars, probably in that anywhere from 12 to 2 p.m. Eastern. Everything is, again, it's a Q&A session every other week, and they are all recorded. And if you have questions, you can submit ahead of time. Then lots more testimonials here from our students who have gone through the program. You get lots of feedback from us. We have a Facebook group. We answer questions in as many ways as we can. Because of B-Lab, Kim's book went to the #1 new release banner in parent and adult-child relationships. And she actually had a launch that was before the course ended 2 years ago. So she was able to implement some of the strategies quickly. Emily Storm Smith loved it. We are a big fan of her. She's getting ready to release her second Regency book. She hit her goals with everything she'd set because of the support. And Pat Black-Gold, who's the author of The Crystal Beads, loved it as well. All of these things. Okay. So again, this is the pricing structure. I'm offering 30% off for being here, payment plans, all of that type of stuff. Raywin's been dropping the link. And now I'm going to get into the Q&A session. Thank you for letting me go through that. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing here. We've dropped the link in the comments a couple of times. Hopefully you got that. We'll include the links in the replay email as well. Oh, the other thing, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that you also get Book Launch in a Box, the basics course, which is your kind of precursor, your pre-work to making sure that your social media is set up properly, to make sure that you have all of the things that you need to start your email list or grow your email list and things like that. So there's a lot of social media and platform growth building that is included in Book Launch in a Box, the basics, and that's part of it. Okay, so I'm going to try to get through all of these questions. There's a lot, and some of them may be too detailed, but we will go through as many as we can. If I've put my book in KDP without extended distribution and want them to in Ingram Spark, can they also stay in KDP? Yes, absolutely. You can have your book published through KDP and through Amazon. As long as it's not in expanded distribution, you are golden. Are there pitfalls to the relaunch if you kept your book around for a long time? I can't see any particular pitfalls. If your book, it was doing well. Now, I would say the bigger, if you have lots of reviews and you've had sales and you're just trying to ramp it up, maybe slowed down and you're trying to ramp it up, you can go back through there and just continue. It's all about, I call them mini launches too. From periodically, you're going to want to do some things to reinvigorate those sales. If your book has been like having it around for a long time doesn't really matter unless you've got some maybe negative reviews or anything like that. In that case, you might want to consider a second edition, a full relaunch, so you can start from scratch. But when you do that, you lose all the associated metadata that comes along with your ISBN, the length of time, the sales, the all those things that are in there. But a relaunch at any point in time can help you reinvigorate. And if your book has been around for a long time and has not been selling, then you may want to look into why from a bigger perspective. Maybe it needs a new cover. Maybe it needs another edit. Maybe the story wasn't good. And you can use any reviews or feedback that you have, maybe get a manuscript critique and see those things. Does relaunching mean it's a new edition needs an ISBN? I kind of just went through that, Heather, but it can be both. So relaunching can be just you reinvigorating by sending a bunch of marketing traffic, by getting your book into the hands of influencers again, by giving it away to people and getting them to leave reviews and all that kind of stuff. Or you can redo the book. If it has, you can redo a cover without changing the ISBN, that's fine. But if you change a significant portion of your interior, if do a heavy edit or anything like that, then you would have to do a second edition anyway. and that launches as a brand new book. Your reviews will not cross over, nothing will happen. So you want to think about that carefully. Like, are you doing it because you got bad reviews and needed to re-edit your book? Then that's a good thing. If you didn't have bad reviews and you're just kind of refreshing the book out there, then you don't have to, you can change the cover if you'd like. You don't have to if the cover was working, but it's just a matter of doing a big campaign, kind of like a launch campaign, but it's just sending to the book that's already in existence. It's not a problem getting reviews on Amazon if you give the books for free, unless you try to send too many people at one time to leave a free review. So people can review books that they did not buy on Amazon. But what happens is if Amazon starts to see a whole bunch of people leaving reviews on a book that nobody bought, they'll lock down the reviews for a time. So I think it's at, that is at 50 or more reviews in like one day. So how do you use Story Origin for review? I cannot answer that, except for I think they allow you to set up, if I'm recalling correctly, you can give out advanced copies and things like that. So you would use it as a tool to distribute your book and then ask those people to leave reviews. So I guess I can answer that a little bit. What's considered a large email list? Well, this really depends more on how engaged your email list is than how large it is. I've seen people with email lists of 50,000 people, 60,000 people that can't move the needle on anything because they send out too many emails, or it's too much garbage, or their emails aren't engaging and nobody's opening or taking action. I've seen people with 500 to 1,000 email openers with a 50% open rate and people clicking on the emails. I would say you want to get to 500 or more to have a considerable enough people to actually see sales when you're sending out a list. And obviously the bigger that list, especially if it's a list of the right people, the right readers, and it's an engaged list, you'll see good stuff. Does anyone do old-fashioned advanced sales anymore, meaning clients actually buy a book with the intention of getting a copy when the book is actually done? Yes. Called a pre-order. You can put your book on pre-order. We put all of our books on pre-order and people can actually go and buy those. You can sell them on your website too, as a pre-order, but please make sure that you check to make sure what your rules are in your state for selling. If you're not sending them to a third-party site, if you're actually putting up a shopping cart and doing all those kinds of things, you need to know what those rules are. Which promotion tools are best for low content books such as journals or workbooks? I'm a licensed therapist who self-publishes. As a licensed therapist, your best marketing tool is going to be to see if you can partner with other therapists and see if they would be willing to share it with their audience. Email works great for this. Having webinars or things where people hear about you through those, coming up for things of that nature. Of course, there are categories for journals and that nature, but to you, I would say your best bet is going to be to actually find partnerships, find ways to get in front of other people who have the same kind of audience who would be interested, and see if you can work some collaborations there. Memoirs are a whole ball game all on their own. It just says, what about for memoirs? But marketing is going to be the same no matter what. And with a memoir, if it's written well, it is marketed like a fiction book. If you think of The Glass Castle, Wild, any of those, they're marketed very much like fiction books, depending on the nature of the book, obviously. But yes, same strategies apply. Book positioning, Kay, hopefully I answered that as I went in there, but it literally means where does your book fit in the marketplace, and how are you making sure that your book fits in the right places, that it's showing up in the right categories, that it's marketed in the right places, that it's, all of those things. My work in progress is the third book in a series. Launch activity for the first two is pretty non-existent. Still, I have lots of Amazon and Goodreads reviews, suggestions for a strategy for launching the third. I'd go back and implement a more traditional, if you didn't see what you wanted to see in your first two books, then you probably don't have a reader base that's big enough yet for even a third book to make that much of a difference. So I go back and really do a more traditional, bigger launch for the third book, which gives you the opportunity then to hopefully see a bunch of backlist sales on the first and second. Is reaching out to libraries really a fruitful step for what kind of books and genres? Yeah, it absolutely is. There are over 9,000 libraries in this country. If your book is recommended to librarians and they like it, those people see, librarians see, especially in systems, what other people are getting. Librarians go to conferences, they talk to each other about the books that they're buying and why. It can be, imagine if, even a handful of libraries purchased 1, 2, or 3 copies of your book, and guess what? Now it's available. If a book is constantly on a wait list and people are going into the library and asking for that book, they may order more copies. Your ebook, I believe you get a royalty every time your ebook is, I don't remember on the library stuff, so I'm not going to say that there, but you do get paid when your ebook is purchased and put into libraries. Lots of people check out books from the library on ebooks when they want to read something. So yes, it can be a great place for your books. What's a good strategy for finding readers on social media? I talked about that a little bit in the 4 days in Paris example. So hopefully you got some ideas, but it's really about looking for hashtags, looking for other people who are talking about what you're talking about, finding people that are interested in that. And we do talk about Instagram strategies a lot in the Book Launch in a Box Basics, which is a part of the program. We also have an Instagram for Authors course, if that would be more down your line. But there is some strategy. If your budget is small for marketing, you're going to have to spend more time doing the things that are free, engaging, getting out on podcasts, getting in front of other people's audiences, finding reviewers, finding influencers, and doing all those types of things. But it can be done. It just takes a lot longer in most cases. What and who exactly are book influencers? Book influencers is anybody who is building an audience around talking about books. So on Instagram, they're called bookstagrammers, hashtag bookstagram or hashtag bookstagrammer. On TikTok, it's book talk. So you can see a lot of things like that, or they'll have specific hashtags, hashtag romance reader, hashtag YA reader, things like that. And they're people who you can see that they are posting about books all the time, and they are building an audience about posting books. They are influencing other people about their decisions about books through their social media, website, blog, any of those things. What are some good but reasonable places to find a VA? Raywin, do you have a suggestion on that? Raywin may have already left.
Yeah, I told everyone they could send me a message on Facebook and I can help them out.
Perfect. Is it okay to send out ARC PDFs to potential reviewers prior to the final edits? Yes. In fact, most people do. Okay, not prior edits. You should not send out a book to ARC readers. That's your beta readers if you need people to look at it. So you want to wait until your book has been completely edited. That being said, it's often, most people understand when they get an ARC, it's an uncorrected proof, meaning the final proofread hasn't happened yet. So there is some level of expectation that there may be a typo or two, and generally people don't hit you too hard on that. Some people will, boy, some people will. But it's a good thing if they do, because then okay, we need to make sure these were addressed in the final version. But before it's been finally copy edited, developmentally and copy edited, depending on your genre and what you need, do not send it out until it's final. An aggressive IG presence means spending a lot of time growing your reader base on Instagram, growing your influence and your presence there. What giveaway platform was that for the FSS Teacher Classroom giveaway? It was called Children's Book Review. And if you just Google Children's Book Review, you'll see it. Okay. that was just a typo. Okay. How do you connect with the children's librarians? Whew, again, that's a very long answer with a lot of work behind it, but the short answer is start with your local library, go in there and talk to them. What is the cost of the children's book tour review? Okay, so you will have different options. You can purchase a dedicated review. You can purchase different types of reviews, and it ranges from $250 to like $900. So they have multiple options. Who is your distributor? We work with a company called Pathway Book Services. If I want to do a relaunch, is it necessary to change the cover if the cover already fits the book? I answered that earlier. No, it's not necessary. What happens if Kirkus gives a nasty review? Do not share, or will it still be easily found by anyone? You get to review the review before it gets posted, and you can decide whether it gets published or not. However, unless the review is literally like, this is the worst book I have ever read in my entire life, and it is so poorly written, I couldn't even stand it. I wanted to poke my eyes out with a pencil. If it's that bad, then don't publish it and go back and by all means stop all your production and start over. Like, because nobody's that nasty unless the book is that bad. However, there are a lot of reviews that will have things like, you know, the timeline might have been a little off, or I didn't really jive with this character, or I didn't love this thing or whatever. Publish those. You know why? Because people, it's one person's opinion. I have heard retailers tell me this. They're smart enough to know to read a review and to understand that sometimes people get nitpicky on something that wouldn't bother the majority of the people, right? Or sometimes, or they take it with a grain of salt that this is one person's opinion on a book. The benefits of having a trade review out there and associated with your book are often higher than the negative impacts of a couple of bad sentences. But again, if it's a craft issue, if they've said this book is poorly constructed, it was a struggle getting through it. Like if it's really that bad, then don't publish it and go back to the drawing board. But if it's just if it's clearly an opinion, I didn't love the character, I didn't love the setting, things like that, those are not as damaging. Okay, boy, we still have quite a few questions here. Does the WIP school 50% off discount expire? Nope. Let's see. What is our date sources for the New York Times to Yes, indie author books are eligible for New York Times bestseller list. Absolutely. I've seen many a self-published book hit the list with a lot of work and a lot of effort. We have people in our community that have self-published, authors that I know that have self-published many books that have hit those lists. It takes thousands and thousands and thousands of sales in 1 week across 3 platforms. So that means your book has to be at least, they say a minimum is 5,000 sales in 1 week. That starts on a Tuesday and they track for a week. So the minimum guess is about 5,000, that if you sell 5,000 across, let's say, Apple Books, Barnes and Noble, and Amazon in 1 week, you're eligible. But you're only eligible because if 10, 15, however many people, 100, whatever the list is, they have different sizes. If 100 people sold 12,000 or more books that week, you're nowhere near it with 5,000 sales. So it's variable. How would you recommend approaching publicity for an author who has a pseudonym or is an extremely introverted? I'm not a publicist and I don't want to I would suggest that you have a consulting call with a publicist. Your marketing is going to be more challenging for sure, but there are lots of behind the scenes ways that you can still get out there through written media, through podcasts where no one sees your face, through things of that nature, or through just ads. There is no shame in just running ads on Amazon, on Facebook, on Google, on all those places, which are just to the book. Ads is another component of this that can be useful. But I would suggest that you maybe try and see if you can find someone who can do a consulting call with you on that specifically. Are Kirkus reviews and Goodreads good for business books? Really depends on where you fall in the business book and where you're marketing to. If you're marketing it to largely libraries, retailers, and more traditional book selling, then yes, you want to look and see. I think Kirkus reviews everything, all categories. If you're using this for growth of your own audience, you're an entrepreneur, you're digital in the digital space, you're using it for credibility, for getting speaking gigs, things like that, then you don't necessarily need to do those types of things. No stupid questions, Sarah. I have a lot of connections to both readers and authors in the English speaking world, but I normally write in German. Would it be wise to write in English instead, given I already have a possible audience? Or do I have an audience in Germany, but it's not as direct? Or would it be better to stick to a smaller market? If I were you, I would spend some time looking at book sales in Germany and seeing how your genre performs in Germany. And if there is a market there, then you just work on building your German market. But if you already have a lot of connections in the English speaking world and you feel comfortable writing in English, that's always a great place to start, especially if your book is in a market that sells a lot in the US. And also, there's a lot of people who buy books in English in Europe. So, there are other markets that you could consider as well, but start with where you're seeing the potential first, and then you can always go back and do them in German and market them to German audiences later. I've written a passion self-help project about having spasmodic dysphonia. Hope I said that right. Any thoughts on where to find graphics or help with designing my cover? I also need help with editing. I can't really help you with either of those because I just don't know. What I would do is I would look for cover designers. I don't know if Tamian is here today, if she has any answer to that, but I would start searching for cover designers and looking at the types that they're, even before that, go and see books that are on Amazon that are similar in nature, and see a lot of times the copyright page will have the cover designer's information on it. You can start there. You can Google it and do that. In terms of editors, that's going to depend on the level of editing, what you need in editing. We have lots of editors in our community. So I would post that. I know Dana's in here. Dana does different genres, but she might be able to answer that question. But again, you can look up, and you can also go to firstediting.com. They have a variety of types of editors, and you can ask them that question. Do you have anyone who specializes in this type of book, and see what they say. Can you extract a portion of a review? Okay, my mouth is done. And use for promotion? Yes, you sure can. And all the review sites have guidelines on what you can extract. So normally, as far as I know, you can never change the order of words. So you can never like synopsize a review and put it out there. What you can do, though, is maybe they said something really awesome about your book, could not put this down, then said a whole bunch of things about the book and the like, and then at the very end of it, would recommend this to everyone. So what you can do is say, could not put this book down, ... would recommend to everyone. And I encourage you to shorten them, actually, because a lot of people don't want to read a 12-paragraph review. They just want to see the key points. If you use KDP Select, yes, you can only have your ebook listed on KDP. You cannot put your ebook anywhere else, not even your website, if you're in KDP Select. Your print book can be wherever you want it. How much do you charge per page on KDP? I don't know what that means. You don't charge anything per page on KDP. That's if you're talking about the page reads, that is something that Amazon decides, that KDP, that program decides for you. You don't have any say in what you get charged per page. Why did you use a pen name, and does that complicate things for me? That's a great question. I used a pen name because if you look up Alexa Bigwarfe or Alexa Bigwarfe on Amazon, you're going to find books on grief and loss. You're going to find books on parenting, and you're going to find books for authors. I know, as from studying the marketplace a lot, that when you get into genre fiction, you have people who have norms and expectations of those genres, and they want that type of book. So as I publish more books under Lexi Haddock, I want to make sure that my readers who are buying books by Lexi Haddock, when they look at my backlist, things make sense to them. If they looked at all my other books and were like, oh my gosh, she's written for grieving mothers, she's written for moms, she's written like, this is not, I'm here for the rom-com or the Paris books, right? And they may either not follow you, they might not buy anything else you do, and it's confusing to them. It's also much harder to market. Imagine if I'm trying to market Lose the Cape realities for busy modern moms, plus Sunshine After the Storm, plus, oh, hey, here's Lexi in Paris, all to the same audience. That gets really challenging for marketing. So that was a big reason. Also, I got divorced and I didn't want my ex-husband's name on my first book. So there's that. On my first rom-com book, I should say. Written word media promotions and BookBub promotions. Written word media runs a list. It's just a list every day. Here's what's for free in these genres. Here's what is for discounted in these audiences. BookBub does other things. They do pre-order campaigns. They do a whole slew of other things. Is book launch in a box for someone who is going to traditionally publish? I would say if you already have a contract with an agent, it's probably not going to be what you're going to be looking for, because you are, we're talking about positioning that your publisher would do. We're talking about editorial and trade reviews, which your publisher would do. We're talking about things like that. Yes, there is a lot of great marketing content for any author, but I would say, if you haven't already secured an agent or a publishing deal, and you don't know for sure that you're publishing, this can change. Like, there are lots of people, I don't know if we have got people on here who have been around and been trying to go the traditional route for years, and have finally decided, okay, I'm not getting what I want, I'm going to self-publish. So if you're at that point right now where you don't know, I wouldn't suggest that this is the time for you to do it, because you'll probably spend at least a year in the querying and agent and all that kind of process. So next summer, if you have decided to self-publish, you can come and join us, or you can just come for the visibility, the marketing, and the background. But it's, I would say if you're for sure traditional publishing, then nah. I am relaunching, and both Goodreads and Amazon have said that I will not lose my reviews and ratings. Goodreads will update, while Amazon needs the original page to remain on their site to have the reviews transfer. What is your experience with this? If you're just updating the cover and maybe just updating small changes to your book, no problem whatsoever. It'll be the same book, the same page, the same everything, everything's there. And relaunching, that's one way to relaunch. If you're doing a second edition, which means you did substantial changes to the interior, or enough that would change if somebody read your book, like if you add a new chapter or rewrite 7 chapters or anything, that's substantial. If you just do a copy edit and fix some things that were wrong and maybe change a couple of sentences because they weren't, that's not substantial. If you do a substantial change to the interior of your book, you must launch as a second edition. If you launch as a second edition, your reviews will not transfer. They will never transfer. I've gone through this with them on multiple occasions. They will not do it. And their rationale is reasonable. You've got all these reviews from a version of your book that is not the same as this version. And again, we're not talking about copy edits and small changes. We're talking about a substantial change to the book, which is what a second edition is. You make big changes. It's different than the first book. So you can't have reviews from that first book because people reviewed it based on what that first book looked like. The second book's going to look different. So it will start over. So again, I would, it depends on if you're doing it. So the next thing is, if it's not substantial changes, do not make it a second edition. Don't leave it. Just make your copy edits, change it, reload your file to the same book, and then you won't lose your reviews. Any suggestions on how to get a celebrity endorsement? Start by trying to find out who their publicist is, and often their publicist will have a way to contact them. If you know somebody who knows somebody, that's always helpful too. But yeah, you definitely will not be reaching directly out to them. You'll be reaching out to their people. Since I have a major overarching theme on all of my content, do you think I could get away with writing in multiple genres under one name? Yes, Louise. Not everybody has to have a pen name. And since I know what your genre is, I mean, I can see all kinds of things in there. You've got your glossary for writers who want to write about what a corpse looks like, or the process of death, or all of those types of things. You've got your book that might be for other morticians. You've got a children's book. I'm making things up here. I don't know what all you have, but all of these things fall under the same theme. You may have different audiences with that, but you are an expert of this topic. That's different than mine, where one's around, and you could even get away with doing a fiction book about a mortician or things like that, because they fall under the same theme and you're going to have crossover. And there are some even big name, if you think about it, Stephen King, one of the most famous books on writing is On Writing by Stephen King. He is not known for being well, he is known because it's one of the most famous books out there, but he can do that because he's Stephen King. But there are some authors who choose to keep everything under the same thing, and that's just their battle to fight on how they market. Maybe they use one social media outlet primarily for their fiction and one for nonfiction, or maybe they have a segmented email list, or maybe they have a different side that here's my fiction books, here's my nonfiction books. If you have overarching themes that are reasonable, like maybe you've written a cookbook and you've written a children's book on cooking, or maybe you've written a yoga book and you've written a children's book about yoga for yoga. There are lots of ways that you can write in multiple genres under the same name. Mine just did not match. And for a lot of you who are writing, and you need to be very, very clear on this, is that if you write in multiple genres of fiction, say you're a romance writer and you write some clean and some steamy, you should have pen names, because your clean readers only want clean, and your steamy want steamy. And what you will wind up with if you go under one name and write both of those versions of this book is really angry readers, because it'll be like, I loved this book, it was sweet romance and it was just so sweet to me, and another person saying, the last book I had sex on, the Red of Hers had sex on like 17 chapters of the book, and this one they didn't even kiss. This is baloney, I hate it. You don't want to get into that. So those types of things. All right, yay, I did it. I got through all the questions and I spent almost 2 hours with y'all. Woohoo! We will send out the replay as soon as we can get everything loaded to you. I will send out the slides so that you can go back and review things. The link to Book Launch in a Box will be there. And again, I'm giving, here's the thing, like we all know that pressure sales are the best thing, like to move the marker. The best thing for me to be would be like, this ends in 2 days, get it in 2 days. But the reality is I want you to have time to think about it. I ask you a lot of questions about your goals that you may need to do that, but I still want you to be able to access that, that coupon, the 30% off for enough time for you to think about it. Again, you can pay in 5 installments if you want, which brings it way down, all those types of things. But it'll be a great program again. A lot of our alum from last year are going to be at the Q&A sessions again this year, which will be really great because they'll be bringing in experience as well. Again, our Q&A sessions will be every other week starting on June 5th, but you'll have access to the pre-work starting at the beginning of May. So all the social media stuff, the ARC team stuff, all of that stuff, you'll have those things to start working through in the beginning and working on that, so that when we start in June, we get into the meat of positioning, of building buzz, of all of those types of things. I love this program, to be honest. It's years of test running programs till I got to what I think is what you need to know to successfully launch a foundation building book, or a book that's really going to see the results that you want to have. We love it. We love our attendees and we have a great time. Okay. Hopefully you got what you came for today. You should have a lot of information. What is considered a good amount of reviews on Amazon? 50 or more. I mean, obviously, if you can have thousands of reviews, that's even better. But if you hit the 50 point, that shows some legitimacy, that there are people reading your book, but it also, from what we understand, has some like special magic sparkle dust that gets your book seen a little bit more, promoted a little bit more, recommended a little bit more through Amazon. But more importantly, if you think about the intent of reviews, I shop on Amazon a lot. I'm trying to buy my books through bookshop.org as often as possible to support the local bookstores, but sometimes books aren't on other places and I get them on Amazon, and I truly use those reviews to make a buying decision. And but especially when it comes to things like I bought a vacuum cleaner, and I read the reviews even more now, since I thought I was buying sidewalk chalk and instead I accidentally bought a poster of sidewalk chalk, which my kids still laugh about. So it helps the buyer make a decision on whether or not to spend their money. So reviews are very important. And that's the message that you can also give to your readers when you're trying to help them decide, help convince them to go read your book. They're critical to people's buying behaviors and decision making. And that's why bad reviews aren't a bad thing, because if it's a review that someone else would have a similar opinion, you want them to know before they buy your book, rather than having them buy your book, send back your book, and then leave a nasty review. So, all of that to consider. Y'all were very prolific in the chat. I have missed all of it. Hopefully, if there was anything important for me, you dropped it into the Q&A box. But busy little bees over there. And I'm going to stop talking before I completely lose my voice. Okay. Just making sure there's nothing important in there that I need to consider. And Raywin has already left, so I'm going to drop that link just one more time for everybody here, just in case you got convinced in the last 5 minutes. And thanks, I love hanging out with you. I always have a hard time ending these webinars because this is fun. Okay, there are still 75 of you hanging out with me, so apparently y'all like to hang out a lot too. But have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon, and I truly hope to see you in Book Launch Unbox. We love it, and send us questions if you have questions. If not, we will see you in our next session. Have a wonderful day. Bye.